This is Inconstant. Hello, this is an interview I did with Dr. Imran Lasker, and we talk about one of our favourite movies, Back to the Future. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so we're recording now. Okay, cool. So we're doing a kind of a podcast about Back to the Future. So I'll introduce my guest, Dr. Lasker. Dr. Lasker, would you like to tell my big audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, first
And
of all, I
yeah,
cringe at being called Dr. Lasker. Okay, one of those things I never really get used to. I know a lot of people, get off on that, but it's not. As far as head knows, it's not something that I think is more a circumstance and luck that's got me to this point. So let's just call me Imran. Let's move on.
okay, it's Imran.
Okay,
Imran.
so we are talking about. So we're talking about me. So I've known you for a very long time. We played football together over the years, and we have attempted writing scripts together, comedy stuff. Generally hang out. Don't hang out enough these days, actually. Mostly my fault because I find myself working a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
mostly the coronavirus's fault at the moment. So
yeah, well, yeah.
that's
I
a
mean, I
nice
use
little
coronavirus.
timestamp.
Well, that's the thing. When you said like, is anyone free? I was thinking, well, like it's a bit hard not to be free to do this podcast because we all indoors, aren't we? I mean, come on, man. Like, not as if we're doing anything else right now. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
one of our mutual friends, Tunga, apparently is working from
Oh, yeah.
home and is
Well,
actually doing work.
yeah, yeah, of course.
Apparently.
I don't know what he really does, that guy. He's always on WhatsApp and, and getting very irate about things. He's quite verbose on WhatsApp. He's quite funny. I do like to wind him up.
Yeah.
It was quite funny the other day because he really went off on one of our mates, and I was thinking he was like, "Oh, you're always trying to like start an argument," and I thought, actually, hang on, I put a lot of effort into trying to wind you up, and I don't think it's fair that you go and give him the credit for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite,
Yeah,
I need to get him at some point.
yeah, I'm
As
sure he'll be
well.
interesting. I think he'll
Yeah.
be interesting.
So, cool. Do you mind if I just kind of ask you a little bit sort of like about sort of the coronavirus situation and stuff like that, or should we
Yeah,
just try and keep
as much as a radiologist can know about it, of course. Yeah, no worries,
it
go for
cool,
it.
man? So, at your hospital and stuff, how bad is it? Kind of, is it kind of
So yeah, I mean, I haven't. You know what? Like, I mean, I'm very, very privileged in the position I am in terms of like, this is what I mean by luck of the situation that a lot of my work ends up being sent to my house. Like, they send the scans to my house, so I haven't actually been in to work in the last week. I'm not going to go in this week, and I think they're trying to make as much of it as remote as possible, which I think is happening with a lot of jobs. But it's quite unusual, I guess, for someone who's a medical professional right now not to be in the hospital right now, and really getting hands on and dirty, getting their hands dirty. And in fact, I think I was talking to one of Rabia's friends yesterday, and she was like, Imran, you know what? I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I was thinking it's kind of, I feel a bit of a farce because, yes, I'm working, but I'm working from the comfort of my house. I'm not there sticking ventilators into people's throat. I think we've got quite a few people who have confirmed coronavirus on top of the being busy in the first place. It's a busy hospital, and unfortunately, yeah, it's not great, is it? And it's not really getting any better. And I don't know if you heard, but they're thinking about opening the Excel Center as a
I
potential.
think that's been confirmed. I think they're getting the army to
Really, I
do that.
mean,
I think they're going to call it something the Nightingale Hospital. I think they're going to be calling it. So yeah,
yeah, you think
2,000 beds apparently.
we're talking, and they're saying 4,000 people. I mean, 4,000 people. I mean, how bad is this going to get? I mean, that's serious, man,
Yeah,
and really
yeah,
scary. So yeah,
yeah.
it's good,
So,
man, and yeah.
yeah, and I know kind of a lot of people separate from that. I mean, in the Southeast Asian communities, for those of you who aren't aware, kind of like the bond between like parents and children is quite strong. So I imagine kind of like a lot of families not being able to sort of like contact their parents over the next period because
Hmm.
self-isolation, especially if they're not living in the same household. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be
Honestly,
tough.
with my parents, like it was a real difficult thing to try and get across to them that it is very, very important that they do not leave the house. And I think I think there's a bit of an argument that they end up having with my sister about it, and thankfully she's taken the brunt of trying to push it to happen,
Yeah.
trying to get them to listen. And it was really weird today. I was talking to my mum, and she's like, "Oh, it's really good that we only have to be isolated for like another week." And I was
Oh, no, 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 no,
like,
no,
sorry.
no, no.
And then I was like, "Oh, I must have heard that wrong, seriously." And she kept going, "Yeah, it's only been another week. Oh, we can do another week." And I thought, "Oh dear." And then I thought, you know what? I could say something or leave it to my sister. So I left it to my sister.
Fair enough. Let's move on to Back to the Future. So it's a freaking stone cold classic. So I didn't have access to. I wanted to watch it again before we did the podcast. So the only version that I could find was like a Russian version. I
What?
just wanted
Okay.
to remind, but yes, I watched it on like 2 times speed in Russian just to remind myself of the
Mm,
scenes that happened.
okay.
Um, and it's surprising how well it works in a foreign language that you can't
Really?
understand. I mean, maybe that's just because I'm so familiar with it. Anyway, so do you want to kind of explain what the story of like Back to the Future is
I mean,
to,
it,
to
it feels like
viewers
a
for those
bit
who
of
haven't?
a, it feels like a silly question to ask. I mean, you almost assume that anyone that has anyone has seen that movie. I mean, how could you not have watched Back to the Future?
My nephew's only just saw it kind of like last week
I
for the
mean, yeah, I mean
first time.
that's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
that's different. I mean, he's a child. He's
yeah,
still a child, right? It's been that
yeah,
long.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, well, okay. I mean, it's a bit of a weird concept, really, when you think about it. I mean, it's a fantastic, fantastic movie. Easily one of the best movies I feel have been made. And what I like about it is like what we used to talk about before. Like, it has a lot of good internal logic. Like, it makes logical sense within the universe that it is set in. And the point is that there's a young guy, and he ended up, going back in time inadvertently, and he ends up bumping into his parents. And it starts to get a little bit creepy. That's the thing. Like when you're a kid, you don't realize how creepy this whole scenario is. But his mum starts to fancy him, but the young mum, and she doesn't know that this is her son. But she starts to fancy him and start to try and go for him. And because of that whole scenario of how the mum starts to like him, rather than the man that she's meant to go and marry and end up having him in the first place, it results in some sort of paradox where he's about to not exist. So within the logic of the movie, he has to try and force them to be together, um, so that he can exist. But it turns out his dad is quite a loser, and that's, I guess, the funny part of it is that how on earth does he get his mum to go for his dad? Because it doesn't look like it's actually feasible considering who his dad is. So I mean that's the premise of the movie, and successful or not, I guess for anyone that hasn't seen it, probably better you go watch it. I really wouldn't want to spoil such a fantastic movie for anyone.
We're going to be going into spoilers because we can't really do a discussion about. So kind of spoilers ahead, guys. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, but yes, I've got some notes that I want to a few talking points that I want to kind of go through with you. So kind of watching it again in Russian last night. um, One of the questions I kind of wanted to ask you is Marty McFly a loser? In the original timeline, I think you can make quite a strong argument that Marty McFly is a bit of a loser. He kind of he's if you watch the kind of the first few scenes, kind of his mum's kind of an alcoholic. His dad's kind of getting bullied by Biff Tannen. He's kind of like flunked out of the music competition. And his best mate seems to be some old geezer. The only thing that seems to be going for him is that he's got quite a hot girlfriend. So would you
Well,
say?
no, that's the thing. It depends on the way you look at it, right? Like, you know, yeah, in the conventional, I mean, you're talking about like an Asian style. Like, is he good boy or bad boy? Yeah, like,
Yeah,
fine. He's not academically brilliant from what we can tell. He's getting in trouble because he turns up to school late. Mrs. Strickland's on his case and all the rest of it. Yeah, but I mean, these are the kind of guys that are cool. 'Cause I remember when I was young. I mean, look, listen, yeah. If you came into a school on a skateboard and you had a hot girlfriend and you were playing like lead guitar and singing in a band, I mean, how cool is that?
fair enough. Fair enough. Point taken. Point taken. I'm just saying, kind of like you see, kind of typical Hollywood movies. The main character would be a lot cooler. He wouldn't have like loser parents like Marty McFly's got. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't have kind of like loser parents, loser brother and sister.
Yeah.
Kind of so it's kind of in my head like Marty McFly was like always kind of a winner. Do you know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
see at the start of the movie, he really wasn't that. He
But
really
or he could be
was.
coming from less than, not a great background, I
Yeah,
guess, from the look of things. But considering all those things, like yes, his dad is a loser back then and in the current timeline.
yeah,
But man, the guy was cool, man. Like,
yeah.
he was really
It's
cool.
yeah. It's kind of like a stroke. No other. I mean, it's wild to think that they had that ginger bloke play him originally. I just Michael J. Fox is.
Yeah.
There's no other character that could have no other actor that I think could have played that
Well, that's
character.
the thing. Like, it's amazing how like there are some movies where similar things have happened, and now you can't imagine it being anyone else. Like, wasn't it O.J. Simpson that was meant to be the Terminator?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
imagine, like, how much of a tank that movie would have been, or how, as a result of O.J. Simpson's subsequent actions, like how that would have been buried in the timeline
Oh my
system,
god, yeah,
And
yeah,
then, what about Will Smith as the what do you call it, Neo in the Matrix? Like, we all love Will Smith, but he would have Will Smith that role.
yeah,
Would not have been Neo the way we know it, and the Matrix would never be what it is. So,
yeah,
it's amazing actually when you think about like how these things can happen and how someone can basically become. I mean, they're so integral to that role that you can't imagine it being anyone else. But it was so close to being someone else, especially in
yeah,
that movie where they actually filmed a significant part of the film before they decided to change the guy. I mean, can you imagine like if
yeah,
you were doing that movie and then you're doing, oh, it's quite a nice little earner, I'm doing pretty well, I'm working with these great people, and
yeah,
suddenly they're like, yeah, I think you're gonna have to go. We're gonna bring this other guy in, and you think, but we just started filming the movie. Like, what do you mean you're gonna replace me? Can you imagine like
yeah.
how harsh that must have been? I would have said that's being, you being ginger. Is gingerist a word? Being anti-ginger?
I, I think Eric Stoltz is the actor. I just think he was like I don't that Michael J. Fox to me in this movie is quite vulnerable in quite a few places. And that's part of kind of he brings out the fact I'm sure he must have been kind of his mid-20s when he played Grohl, but you do actually believe because down to his height, his boyish looks, he's actually probably quite he's a teenager. And I just Eric Stoltz was a little bit too classical wooden leading man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
not a bad actor by any means, but
Well, I think he
yeah,
ended up having quite a good career, even after this. But
yeah,
what I found, like, you're talking about that. I only recently found out that the Marty's dad in number one, is it Crispin Glover or something,
yeah,
is
yeah.
not the same actor in the subsequent films. Did you know that?
Sorry.
So the person that acts as Marty's dad in the
Yeah,
first film is
yeah.
not the same actor that is in the subsequent films.
Yeah, yeah. I think I knew that. I think
I did not know that till very recently.
Crispin Glover's a bit of a weirdo. I don't know if you've kind of he's good. Let me just Google is Kristen Glover a weirdo? I think he is.
Well, I've heard that. I'm such a big fan of the movie. I actually watched how back in the day you had a DVD and then you had like the multiple audio versions, and then one of the audio versions would be like people talking over the movie. And I think I
Yeah,
actually have one of the DVDs where I think Steven Spielberg and is it Robert Zemeckis and stuff
yeah,
were talking to each other about the whole movie, and they were quite polite about it. But in number two, they were saying that the actor was making some demands that were out of proportion for what they'd expect for someone to be in that position. As in, this guy was demanding more than even Michael J. Fox was demanding. And so I
yeah,
had to write him out of the second, I think,
yeah,
the movies eventually, because it clearly wasn't going to work with him. And that's why they made him have a more of a minimal role from what they originally anticipated for him to have,
yeah.
which is
He's
again, amazing that it actually ends up being a really amazing and a great
th-
movie.
those first two movies, like the first two parts of the trilogies, work unbelievably well together.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of
Internal logic on point, isn't it?
yeah, kind of s- the script writers and the production planners for the movie
Mm,
should have got an Oscar, man, because kind of the
yeah,
way because I think they tore everything down, didn't they? Didn't keep
yeah.
the original stuff.
Yes,
Um,
they had to reenact the entire like the first movie and the second movie, like
yeah,
bits of that to make it
yeah,
work. And
yeah,
what's really interesting? I read this is how much of a fan I am. I read Michael J. Fox's autobiography, and he was saying that when he was doing the first movie and he was playing, the guitar riffs,
yeah,
he had to do it again for the second one. On the second one, he found it really difficult, and he didn't really understand why. And he thought maybe because at the time, I think he was, quite newly famous and
Yeah.
enjoying a bit of a Hollywood lifestyle, and I think he must have had a bit of a drinking problem. So he assumed it was because of that, like he was finding it difficult to guitar and all the rest of it. But actually, it turns out it was his Parkinson that was already settling in. Like it started.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Apparently,
Wow.
according to the autobiography, it was actually because of that. That's why he was finding it difficult to guitar as well as he did in the first one. So isn't that amazing? Like it was already happening. Poor guy, he had no idea. No idea.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's it's so sad. Kind of what what's happened with him and like the Parkinson's.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's painful to watch
yeah,
now. Like
yeah,
I mean, it's nice when he pops up and reenacts his role and
yeah.
plays
Did
along
did
with it and everything.
uh,
But
did you ever see any of the sitcom he did later on, which was kind of based on his own life? I think they only shot like 5 episodes of it.
no,
I
Spin
think it was
City.
called yeah. No, it wasn't Spin City. It was. Let me have a look online. Michael Mann types up thing on
Oh,
the
yeah.
internet.
I've only recently
Oh,
discovered this is how much of. I mean, I'm a massive, massive fan, and in fact, I might even watch it tonight. But Keith Lemon, or what's his name, Lee Francis of Bosa,
yeah,
has done his own version of Back to the Future
yeah.
One.
He does. He does a lot of the. Yeah, it's called the Michael J. Fox Show. It ran
Okay.
from 2013 to 2014. 22 episodes apparently. So
Wow,
I think
that's
he still
good
pops up
run.
now and then in kind of TV shows, but the Parkinson's is gonna limit kind of what he can what he can do.
Yeah,
Really,
I think I heard
unfortunately.
that. Well, I mean, we saw he was in a Scrubs episode, and that was probably one of my favorite episodes ever. And then he apparently was in some lawyer show recently, and actually played up.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I've seen kind of like so there's what was it called? It's called The Good Wife.
Oh,
So
that's
he's in
right.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and he plays a bit of a cunt in that. So it's kind of like nice villainous turn
yeah,
for
yeah.
kind of plays up the fact that
He's got
you
a problem.
know he's
Yeah.
got a problem. He uses that to help his clients out. Cool. So the next question I've got. So this is more of like a philosophical question, I think. Um, so spoilers for everyone that hasn't seen the movie. Marty changes the timeline so his parents are successful and he ends up in like a nice house
Mm.
with like does he have a Jeep or something at the end of the movie? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
in the beginning of the movie, he sees it like this Toyota, which still looks like a nice car. I'd love to have that car. Maybe because of the movie, I don't know. But yeah, he's like really likes it. And at the end of the movie, because his parents are rich, they get him that car, which is quite
Yeah,
important, isn't it?
yeah. So is he a creep for changing the timeline? And what
Well,
happens in the original timeline where his parents are still losers? Their son has disappeared. This old man has disappeared. They might think he's been
I mean, that's the
kidnapped.
thing about the back. I think with what do they? I think when Doc explains it in number two, he never says that the original timelines continue. They just seem to, as in, he never says
Okay.
parallel timelines.
Yeah.
So there is no reality. So once that reality changes, I know there are other movies where there can be parallel timelines, and I think
Yeah.
that Bill and Ted, I think around that time, like time travel was like really cool or something. And so I think
Yeah.
Bill and Ted had an idea of like, oh no, that's something different where they said that the time, your local time continues to go
Yeah.
regardless of where you are. So there's no concept. So like, if I disappear for the equivalent of a day, I actually do disappear for a day, which is quite, I mean, that worked for them because they needed to get, the movie needed to keep going, right? Like
Yeah.
otherwise it wouldn't work. But I don't think Back to the Future runs like that. I think like if
Okay.
once you change the timeline, it changes the timeline. There's no other
Okay.
timeline after that.
Okay. Fair
But
enough.
is he bad and good? I mean, the thing is, it happened inadvertently, isn't it? And you kind of
Yeah.
want things to work out for him because you root for that character. Didn't work out so well for Biff. I mean, he ends up
Biff
cleaning.
Tannen.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's
Poor
not
Biff
so great.
Tannen.
Yeah, he gets done
Poor
over.
Biff Tannen. What a
Um,
douchebag that guy was.
yeah, yeah.
You just put an idea into my head, kind of yeah, that it's a shame like that crossover never happened, kind of a Bill and Ted Back to the Future crossover.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would that would have been kind of
Yeah, that would be awesome. But
yeah.
we're having a Bill and Ted 4 at some point, apparently, according to Keanu Reeves' Twitter. So, that's.
Well, it's supposed to be out this year.
Oh, really?
It's
Have you
supposed to
heard
be
the
out this year.
concept? I've heard the concept's quite good.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
yeah, you heard it, yeah?
yeah, it's kind of like they still haven't. Hey,
change the world.
well,
Oh,
yeah. We still get the
it's
money.
so awesome. I can't wait. It just sounds brilliant. It sounds brilliant, doesn't it? You
Yeah,
know, it
yeah,
really does. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But interestingly, Back to the Future. Sorry, I just love this movie so much. And I recently found out that someone on Reddit had come out with a theory for number three, where
Yeah.
it could have actually completely bypassed the entire movie. Did you know this?
I've with Free, it's not one that I watch regularly.
Okay.
It's not my favourite, so
Yeah, it's
I
not.
think I've maybe
I
seen it
liked it.
once or twice. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
basically, Marty goes back with one of the time machines, right?
yeah.
All the way back. So apparently, they could have just used the parts from the time machine from the future, and put it into the time machine that he's buried.
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, I do think yeah.
And
Yeah, that
that
makes
would
sense.
have the movie done. It would have been like a 5 minute job.
So, both myself and Imran are script writers, and sometimes script writers we miss out kind of like the logical solution that might present itself to
Or just
people that
ignore it.
maybe
Or just ignore it.
it's the well, it happens because the movie needs to happen. So that's why they didn't do it that way. And
Yeah, and also they would never have got Clara from the Clara's Ravine or whatever it was. So
yeah,
there were other things that needed to happen for number three, but they could have bypassed the entire thing.
yeah, yeah. So there's a few other things that kind of on I want to talk about. So kind of like pre 9/11 Libyans. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it's kind of like
Brilliant.
and they stole like nuclear plutonium. It's just kind of like flipping. They just kind of that's just something that the movie kind of skips over.
Yeah,
Kind of like
yeah. I mean, it's
CIA.
that
There's
thing
no
that
FBI.
people. But this is the
Nothing.
thing about Back to the Future. It's got such a special place in people's hearts that like they will just happily ignore some of the weirdness and
It's a
pretend to.
very weird movie. It's a
Yeah,
very, very weird movie. Like it's a really weird sci-fi
I
movie
mean,
if
come
you
on,
kind
man.
of look
There's
at
a
the
scene where he kisses his mum in the
yeah,
car.
yeah,
He is trying to get on. I mean, she's trying to get on. He's trying to get on with his mum. I mean,
yeah,
that is creepy.
yeah,
As much as you try and when we watch him, we have these like nice memories of it. But actually, that's freaking weird, man.
yeah.
Even if I
The
said to you, Fred, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna save your existence, you're gonna try it on your mum. You'd be like, nah, I'd rather
nah,
just go.
nah.
Thank you very much, but nah, I'm done. Wouldn't
Which
you? Come on.
yeah, which kind of
Yeah.
leads me on to my next. I mean, there are like a lot of weird things in this movie. Kind of like the sci-fi stuff with his dad, kind of him brainwashing his dad, pretending to be Darth Vader, kind of him inadvertently kind of inventing skateboarding when he kind of steals that kid's
Yeah, yeah.
little
And what about the
tank.
mayor? Do you remember the
Yeah.
mayor, Mayor Quimby? Or no, not Quimby's from Simpsons. The mayor. But the mayor, the guy was cleaning the floor in the cafe, you know, and then Marty was like, I don't know you, you're the mayor, and he was like, you know what? I should go become mayor. And then
Yeah,
he
yeah.
actually ends up becoming the mayor, in the 80s, from that suggestion back in the day. Yeah, there's all sorts of things like that.
Him and kind of
Oh, and
invent
then the
rock and roll
shopkeeper actually
music.
says, "Oh, a colored person becoming mayor, that will be the day." I mean,
Yeah,
there's clear racism in
yeah,
that movie
yeah.
that pops out of the blue, but it's
It's the
ignored.
1950s though, mate. Kind of
Yeah, I guess so.
there is a
It
that
was
other
realistic. It was realistic, I
yeah,
guess. Yeah,
kind
fair.
of the other scene where he kind of invents rock and roll music and
Hmm.
when he's stuffed into the boot of the car and kind of those the band kind of sticking up singing.
Reefer heads.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I didn't even. Those are things you don't pick up on when you're a kid, is it? You just
yeah,
don't realize that there was drug use in that.
yeah,
There was an attempted rape in that movie.
yeah.
There was
And
incest in that
attempted.
movie.
There's rapes. There's definitely a couple of attempted murders
Yeah.
in that movie. There's
Yeah, yeah,
there's stolen nuclear um stolen nuclear fuel.
yeah,
There's Libyan terrorists.
yeah,
There's time travel.
yeah,
There's um this weird old man. Man, so watching it again, kind of like um Doc Brown's a weird dude, man.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
very,
yeah.
very,
Exactly, he is.
very
But
strange.
these are the kind of things. I mean, maybe that's why. Apparently, I've heard it was quite hard to get it going.
Yeah,
But you can imagine, like, if I came to you, Fern, and said, "Look, I've got a really great idea for a movie," you'd be like, "You know what? Yeah, no."
Yeah.
But that's the same way I feel about so many things. Like, imagine if I said to you, Fred, I've got a really great idea for a cartoon. This can be a sponge, and he lives in a pineapple under the sea, and he's got a friend who's a starfish and a friend who's a squid, and he
Yeah.
goes and works as the crispy, crusty crab. You'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's not a concept. But there you go, man. These things
Yeah.
you can't predict it.
Yeah. Kind of one of the that in Futurama, kind of like Fry goes back in time and he sleeps with his own
Oh,
grandmother. I was
yeah.
thinking it's kind of
Brilliant.
a so it kind of that kind of leads up into my next question. So at the moment, there's a lot of like incest porn around and
Okay,
incest.
first of all,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yes, yeah. Well,
And
that's because
secondly, why did you know
yeah. I talk to kafars a lot. And they tell me. Yeah, I talk to a lot of white people.
that? All right,
A
okay,
lot of,
yeah, fine.
a lot of stand-up comedy is on. Yeah, something that I've heard I've heard mentioned.
This is
And
why the world's falling apart. This is the kind of stuff that happens. This is why this is. Oh, anyway, carry on. Yeah.
I would put it to you. Do you think Back to the Future's played any part in the proliferation of that sort of material around the world? Because like boys and
I think Back to the Future. Hey, listen, yeah, this is going to sound weird, but just stay with me on this. I think Back to the Future has such a massive part of our existence that it's almost up there with Michael Jackson. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
right?
it's
You
a
see what
massive.
I'm saying, right? Michael Jackson clearly. I know it's going to upset a few people, but the guy liked kids. I mean, would you let your kids go with this guy? This
Yeah,
20-year-old man or something, having sleepovers and stuff, right? I also feel, and so, but then because he was such a talented individual, I think, you as an individual, is up to you whether you think that's okay. But as collective, we were okay with that. We kind of said, oh, that's a decent excuse for what was going on. But and I think Back to the Future is probably on that level where it doesn't matter what was in that movie. It was such a good movie, and at a time when you could make movies like that without worrying about the Twitter force trying to shut it down, that it's never gonna get blamed for anything crazy like that.
yeah. My next question is going to be oh, kind of. So there's a lot of really cool stunts in this movie, and there's I'm especially kind of thinking about some of the stunts that Michael J. Fox does, and kind of for me, there's a lot of kind of the precursor to free running in there. Kind of there's that stunt where he runs over the top of the car, and him
Mm.
using his skateboard to get in and out of different places. And I'm just wondering what you thought about that. If you had any kind of thoughts about kind of like it leads into a lot of different things, kind of the way that he does different stunts and stuff like that. Because
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
not a superhero, is he? He's just kind of like
he's just a cool
apparently a
kid. He's a
regular
cool
kid.
kid. No, he's a
Yeah,
cool. I mean, come on, man, skateboarding like that. I mean, this is next level skateboarding, like you've never seen before, and dropping the skateboard underneath the cars and catching on the other side. I mean, it's just super cool, man.
yeah,
I don't know, man. Maybe when you watch these crazy YouTube videos of people climbing up things, and then there's a horrendous incidents where people have managed to make quite decentish careers of climbing the craziest heights and end up hurting themselves. Uh, you know, hopefully it doesn't stem from what they saw in Back to the Future, but it's probably just a part of our human nature to be interested in watching that, and there's going to be part of the society that's going to be willing to take those kind of risks. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's very. There's so many levels to that film. Honestly, just I don't even know where to begin. Like, did you know Billy Zane? Billy Zane, the
yeah.
guy. Yeah, I mean he's in that movie. Number one, and
Where's Billy Zane? I mean, I know you saw it yesterday. I didn't notice him. Who does he play in it?
he's one of Biff's bully friends.
Oh,
Yeah,
one of those mongoloids.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. One of the guys are always with him, and like they don't really say all that much.
Yeah.
I'm more a bit,
Okay.
but that movie just had so many cool things about it, just beyond belief.
Oh, yeah. I've just
And if it
been
had free running, then that's just another thing. Like
yeah,
wow, another cool thing for Back to the Future. Why not?
yeah. Kind of like I think you're winning me round to sort of like when I was watching it yesterday. I think I was just thinking, oh, Michael, Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly. He's not as cool as I remember him being, but kind of like he does, skater kid, rock and roller,
Come on, man, Fahid.
chick. Yeah, yeah.
If you were exactly Michael J. Fox when we met, I probably wouldn't hang out with you because I think you'd be too cool for me.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, when we met, we were both kind of, what was that phrase that I always love that phrase that Atik used to try and describe himself, which was a wannabe wannabe. Rude boy. It's
Well,
kind of
it's not as though things have changed all that much, bro.
okay, cool. So we've been going on for about what 30 minutes. I think that's kind of like a enough chat about
Okay.
Back to the Future. Any kind of like final thoughts on the movie and kind of the impact it's had on you and stuff like that?
I mean, you know what? Like, I mean, it's such an integral part of my existence. I mean, the thing is, when I grew up, I've now had a life where I can't even imagine Back to the Future not existing. And look, I mean, look, this is I'm going to show you, Fred. I mean, I know your podcasters won't be able to see, but I'm
Yeah.
going to show you my office where I do my reporting. This is where I do my radiology reporting. And 1, 2, 3. Can you see that?
Okay, so
That
for the benefit of our listeners, he's got three Back to the Future kind of like prints on his wall. A very nice prints actually as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Very,
There's
very
some sort of
nice,
pop
yeah.
art style Back to the Future thing. So, I mean, does it affect my life? Has it had an integral part of my life? I mean, look at my reporting. I'm, now a qualified NHS consultant, and I've got Back to the Future pictures on my wall. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how much it means to me. I love that movie that much that I sit back and sometimes remember my childhood looking at these pictures when I'm in the middle of my work. So
Yeah.
it's an integral part of my life and existence, and I'm glad it exists. And you know what? The other day, I was in fact driving home from work, and I saw a DeLorean, you know,
Yeah.
on the A13, and I just thought, this is the first time in my life I've actually seen a DeLorean in real life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
If
36 years old, and it's taken me this long to see a DeLorean in real life. I had to speed up, catch up with it, look at the driver, look at the car from the outside, and I
Yeah.
really wanted to knock on that window. I really did.
Yeah.
That's how important that movie is to me.
I know you love your like biographies and stuff like that. You should
Mm,
definitely read the biography of the person, John DeLorean, who made the DeLorean. He
mm.
had a crazy life, dude.
Really?
You really need yeah, you really need to kind of read his biography because
Okay.
I heard about it through a podcast called The Dollop, and they did an entire episode on John DeLorean, and you just cannot believe yeah, it's a very, very, very strange story.
I've heard he's very
Um
dodgy. I mean, I heard he was a dodgy character, but I don't know that much about that. But yeah,
yeah,
maybe
I
I
won't
should.
spoil it for you because
Yeah.
yeah, if you read about his life, you'll just think, what, he did that, and then he did that, and then he did that.
Well,
Um,
apparently the DeLoreans when they originally made the DeLoreans, they still have loads of spare parts of the DeLoreans, like
yeah,
loads. When we're talking loads, we're talking like multiple cars worth of DeLoreans still around.
yeah.
And I think recently a company has been able to buy all that stock and now going to start making DeLoreans again.
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't, if yeah, no, in terms of like the reliability
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
car,
yeah.
I think there's massive
Yeah, but yeah,
issues. But
I know about that.
for
But
vanity
listen,
buyers like yourself, you've got rolling around in that massive NHS salary that you're getting. You'll be able to, to purchase one, but yeah, not as your main car.
yeah, well, you know what, you say that, yeah, but the other day I was watching, do you ever watch this thing? I think it's called Fully Loaded, Fully Charged, Fully Charged. It's, Crichton from back in the day, Red Dwarf, the actor,
Oh
started
yeah, yeah,
a YouTube channel on electric cars. And he went to some place in America where they're actually revamping old cars, like Porsches and stuff like that, like really cool ones. And in the background, they had a DeLorean. And I just thought to myself, you're going to electrify that DeLorean. I mean, how freaking cool is that? And you're talking about
yeah,
reliability issues. If you can electrify a DeLorean, I mean, first of all, it sounds cool,
yeah.
but I mean, surely that can sort out some of the issues that it had,
I think there were issues with the gold doors and the
Mm.
brakes as well.
Oh,
But
really?
you need to. I'll send you the link to the Dollop episode of
Yeah,
about
yeah.
so
Well,
you'll
apparently, interestingly, you mentioned this. In the first movie where Marty keeps trying to start the car, yeah,
yeah,
apparently DeLorean was not happy about that because they were showing the car not to start and not be reliable, which is
Yeah.
not really what you want when you're trying to sell a car.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true. But then, the other thing you can say, it's not really a car at that point. It's a time machine with like a nuclear reactor in the
Yeah,
back. Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
still.
I agree. But I think apparently that was an issue. That was an issue for the people who put it in the movie. Yeah.
And another thing I kind of read recently, apparently, Apple in movies when they've got an iPhone featured that they don't allow um, any villains to be iPhone owners. Only,
But that's the
only,
thing. You can see, right? Like, I mean, they're so paranoid about their the way they're portrayed. You know,
yeah,
someone like DeLorean might be upset that their car's
yeah,
starting in the car and possibly stops him from going back to where he came from because it just
yeah,
didn't start. It needed to start. That's all it needed to do, and they couldn't
yeah,
do it.
yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So the last thing I wanted to say is that unlike other franchises, Back to the Future is kind of safe from
Mm,
reboots and
yeah,
remakes because
yeah.
Robert Zemeckis has stated that he has the final film rights to all the films and in the franchise, and he will block any attempts to remake or reboot the film. So, unlike other properties, um, like Star Wars, for example,
Total Recall.
Total Recall,
I mean, what a
yeah,
rubbish film that ended up being.
this trilogy is safe,
Mm,
and it might not mean much to other people, but to have something like Back to the Future that has played a massive part in both Imran and mine's childhood, safe from being rebooted or remade or readjusted, it's really important. It's
mm,
really, really
yeah.
important because it's something we could pass on to our children without worrying about it being tarnished
Mm,
by profiteers.
mm. Well, that's the thing. Like, I love that movie so much that ended up. There was a recent movie I think Spielberg must have made called Ready Player One. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Like from
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
the
yeah.
after.
I haven't seen it, but
Mate,
yeah,
the only reason I rented it and watched it was because they had a DeLorean in it.
yeah,
They had a DeLorean in that movie, and they had so many references to Back to the Future. If you know your Back to the Future, you would spot references to Back to the Future. Even that little, that tingling sound they do. I think I've even got
yeah.
it saved on my phone. You know that kind of, there's a very Back to the Future tingle sound that turns up in a lot of the movies. Um, I think they they even had that in the movie. And in fact, the other day I was coming back from Abu Dhabi, and the person sitting next to me had that as his ringtone, and straight away I felt like we knew each other. Like we must be friends. I mean that's just the way it is. Here we go. I'm going to play it for you. Look, this is how much of a fan I have. After I heard him, I went and got it. There you go.
So let's call it a day there because we're kind of almost 4 minutes in. Is there anything you want to plug for my listeners?
Stay at home and listen to the podcast. Do not leave your house, please. Your life,
Okay,
like everyone else's life, depends on it. And watch Back to the Future
yeah,
again
that's a
and
good
again
shout,
and
guys.
again.
So stay indoors. Um, heed the advice of the medical professionals. If my listeners wanted to comment, find you, and follow you on social media, where would they? How would
Uh,
they go about
I
doing that?
am LL Imran L. LL underscore Imran L on Twitter.
I'll ask him. I'll put his social media thing. So that's going to be on like Twitter and Instagram, or
That's pretty
I'll
much
put
the
his
only place.
social media links in the show description, guys. Thank you so much for doing this, dude.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll put it up sometime
Mhm.
this week. Well, I'm gonna stop recording now, and we can have a chat about a few different things. All
Yeah.
right, see you guys later. Bye.